First on film and entertainment, what a week it has been. Now, I am genuinely excited about what this country has gone through over the last month or so with the Women's World Cup. I mean, the numbers are simply extraordinary. The numbers of people who I would not have thought will be glued to their television screens. They'll be going to live sites, pubs and clubs. By various estimates, we're talking about more than half the population watching. Did you ever imagine, Jackie, that we would see something like this? I mean, it's grown out of virtually nowhere.
Well, why not? Barbie started the trend and off we go.
Well, I'm not sure whether Barbie started the trend.
Women rule, Alex. Women
well,
rule.
No, I don't question that women rule, but in terms of your interest, you're somebody who loves sport in terms of participation. Did you know or did you care about the Matildas a great deal before the World Cup? Serious question.
Not at all, but what I do love is the energy it's brought to the country and the excitement and the coming together, and I think that's terrific. So I don't really care what sport it's about, but I just love the result it's had.
And in terms of the investment in the sport, and I don't want to play politics here, but I want to sort of put on a little bit of a cynical hat. The $200 million that is now going to be invested in women's sport, which is terrific. Had it not been the success that it has been, do you think that would have been forthcoming?
Oh, well, I mean, who's to know? Who's to know what would have been? But I just think it's a crying shame that it doesn't come out of a whole idea of fairness and between genders. It has to come from one particular success. You get success from investment. So they should have done it 20 years ago.
In terms of momentum, this is terrific because I suppose the next massive sporting event is going to be the Olympic Games. So,
well, it won't be the Commonwealth Games.
No, it won't. What that's cost us? $380 million? Not good. Greg King, you are somebody who goes to the football a great deal, and I spoke to, dare I say, Carlton mates. I'm not sure that they're mates who were at the game against Melbourne, and they said, well, basically that people were turning their backs on the football just to watch the soccer. How do you feel about the momentum, the build-up, the intrigue, the excitement that surrounded the Matildas?
Well, to tell you the truth, Alex, I haven't watched any of it.
Now, tell me why. Because it has been huge. It's been humongous, bigger than any football match. I mean, AFL football match. So why no interest, Greg?
Oh, well, I was at the football one night when it was on. I was at MIF one night when it was on. I just haven't been...
Fair enough. Well, Peter Krause, do you actually know what soccer means? Do you have an understanding of that word?
No, I'll pass that through to the keeper. But I mean, it's great to see that it's, galvanized the nation and everyone's excited and women's sport is getting attention. But it doesn't particularly interest me.
Right. Okay. So, Jackie, this is a divided audience. So, did you watch any of the games live, Jackie?
Did I? No, not at all. No.
Oh, my God.
Sport, Alex. I don't watch sport.
Folks, these are heathens that I have.
This is first on film and entertainment.
We're here to watch film, Alex, not soccer.
I'm sorry. If this has not been entertaining, I don't know what has been. I've got to excuse... For anybody listening... Ignore
anybody listening who was entertained by the women's soccer has been entertained by it, by the stage. And now we're talking about film.
Good things are worth talking about, like the 16 Essendon Premiership, Jacqueline Aberden. So, since time immemorial, did you realise at the Palais Theatre, I think it's on Thursday night, there is a coming together, and Greg, I hope that you know about this, there's a coming together of it's the 50-year anniversary of the one and only premiership that St Kilda won, isn't it?
No. I know about this.
Sorry, this was on television on Friday night, and they were interviewing some of the stalwarts like Ross Smith and whatever. There's a film about this that is seriously that's been put together. I don't actually think it's a film. I think it's a not a reimagining. It's a reworking of the actual grand final that will be replayed in the name of charity, and it's got the AFL sanction. Now, there you go. That's entertaining. And at that event, and I may have got this totally wrong, but that's my recollection of having seen the TV story. At that event, you're going to have the stalwarts of that win. You know, the one and only 1 point win against Collingwood. So you should be going to that, Greg.
I think
Right. Okay. So sorry?
I think you've got to pay a fortune to go to that.
$50.
That's a fortune.
Yeah, but it's to charity. Well, hang on. You pay $1,000 to go and see the boss. So it's
Yeah, but that's the boss, and that was in New York, and that was a one-off sort of thing.
hang on. Your one premiership was a one-off too. Correct?
True, but
Thank you.
you got to get your priorities right, Alex. You know, the boss comes first, second, and third.
Yeah. Are you excited about Mr. McCartney coming out to see you personally?
No,
You don't like Paul McCartney. What?
I'm not a big fan of Paul McCartney. No, I'm saving my money for when Bruce Springsteen comes out next year.
Okay. Jackie, do you like Paul McCartney? Do you know?
Look, I do, but I'm not sort of jumping to go to this one. But I'm a bit concerned about whether his voice has still got it.
Well, the only way to tell is to go along.
Oh, pay a lot of money to go along and find out, and then
Well, I
what,
don't know whether
you know.
I don't know whether you can buy tickets anymore. And Peter, you've probably never been to a concert in your life. Mate, did you play accordion when you were a kid or something?
No, it was actually the clavichord, and Mozart and I got on really well.
You didn't blow him off the stage like Chevalier.
Yes, exactly.
I could imagine you in a clavichord. Okay. Now look, I think it's time to speak about some movies. So you're on JL listening to this drivel, and I wanted to start with a movie that we didn't get to last week. That it could have been very, very ordinary, but it turned out to be anything but, called Gran-Turismo. And it's a long film, 2 hours and 14 minutes, M-rated. And we got to go back a quarter of a century. And that's when Kazunori Yamauchi, and I've probably mangled his name, but something like that, Kazunori Yamauchi created the world's most accurate car racing simulation game. And that was called Gran-Turismo. And Yamauchi and his team had spent 5 years getting it right, perfecting it. So video gamers, well, they became obsessed. One day, a UK marketing executive for Nissan, whose name was Danny Moore, played by Orlando Bloom, had this crazy, rather revolutionary idea. And he put this idea to the higher-ups at Nissan, and it basically was along the lines that the company could receive a significant public relations boost if a gamer, somebody playing Gran Turismo, could transfer his skills to the marque's real racing cars. In other words, the real Nissan racing team. Surprisingly, and it is surprising, the execs bought the idea. So Moore then sort of thought, okay, well, what do we do? Well, let's have a contest to choose the best Gran Turismo player in the world. I'm talking about the video game. And the top 10 gamers were selected from a series of live online events. Then they were taught by this grizzled engineer, former driver called Jack Salter, played by David Harbour, to drive real racing cars. And they were pitted against each other. The 10 whittled down to 5. Then a single race determined who would be the chosen one from those. He turned out to be a tall, quietly spoken, but determined British racing car simulation aficionado by the name of Jan Mardenborough, played by Archie Madiqui. His father, Steve, played by Jimon Hunso, had been a soccer champion. And Jan's younger brother, Kobe, played by Daniel Poog, also took up the round ball game after his dad. But his dad was forever on Jan's case to play footy as well, urging him to put his time and effort into something that he considered to be meaningful, he being the father, rather than just playing video games. But Jan was not into the ball sport, and he did not relent. Still, his road to becoming the one selected to race for real was far from easy. That was nothing compared to what he encountered when he took to the track against seasoned drivers. So he was chosen by Nissan, fine, step into the Nissan racing car, but then competing against drivers who'd been doing this for years and years and years, and had established themselves on the real racing track. So, of course, he had to have his wits about him. This is Jan. And he had to learn fast. I suppose that was always a given. More than that, though, he faced significant prejudice from drivers. One in particular called Nicholas Kappa, played by Joshua Stradowski. Now, Kappa and the others were against any simulation driver encroaching on a big boy's sport. So this is a movie based on a true story, which I reckon makes it all the more compelling. And despite the ending's never in doubt, right? It quickly becomes clear what'll happen. It's still pretty exciting. The film was written by Jason Hall and Zach Baylor. It throws up plenty of obstacles and challenges, and I suppose the premise really is backs to the wall. The director's the bloke who did District 9 all those years ago, Neil Blomkamp, South African, ensures there's no shortage of adrenaline-pumping action throughout. And of course, it's the characters, the heroes and the villains that bring this story to life. Arguably, the most interesting of those is Jack Salter. He's a man whose career was cut short, but we really don't know why until a significant way into the movie, and we're not about to tell you on this program. And I reckon David Harbour really balances that push and pull required of the persona pretty well, very well, actually. So Orlando Bloom, unbridled enthusiasm with much to lose. That's his default position as the marketing guru for Nissan. Archie Madikwe, I thought he was really likeable and more often than not contained as Jan Mardenborough. He's not that sort of effusive character. And the filmmakers have done a pretty good job with the visual effects, a really great job, actually, specifically by overlaying the simulated video game with what I'll call skeletons of race cars. And I thought the sound, the music, the production design, and the cinematography all came together really nicely and produced what I reckon's a pulsating ride. The other thing is Jerry Halliwell, or Jerry Halliwell Horner, as she's now known, of Spice Girls fame, is Jan's mum in Gran Turismo. So that's my take on it. What about you, Greg? Did you like it? Ring, all of that?
Yeah, I did not. I thought it was quite a good underdog story there. It follows the tropes of this the formula pretty well. And the writers have obviously taken some liberties with the facts for dramatic purposes, and they've taken some events either out of context or out of order just to spice up the drama there. But it does follow the challenges that Jan faced, how he coped with the overt prejudice from the rival drivers, and they even put up with the disdain that he wasn't media friendly or media savvy, and that. But it all reaches a climax during the famous Le Mans 24-hour race. And even though it's a little bit predictable here, I thought that didn't dilute the excitement or the enjoyment to be had from the story. I thought Neil Blomkamp directed this in quite muscular fashion. And he had adrenaline-charged race sequences. I thought they were quite well handled there. And I liked Archie Madikwe as Jan Mardenborough. I thought he brought conviction to his slightly awkward character, but he gave him vulnerability as well when he's consumed by doubts and uncertainties. He's an likable and endearing protagonist. I thought Bloom was a little bit unctuous as more there, but I really liked David Harbour. I thought he was really good in his role there. He was probably the best thing in the film there, and he elevated the character above becoming a cliche. As a solid car racing movie, I still think I preferred Ford versus Ferrari, though, which was a much more compelling and entertaining film. But no, I certainly enjoyed this, Alex.
Yeah, I agree. And I said the same thing about David Harbour. Peter, you agree that he was a pretty good thing in this movie?
Not at all. I found this...
Like David Harbour. Is that because you don't like sport? You don't like life as it really exists with sport at its centrepiece?
Don't rush into comments like that. Look, this film is a 2.25-hour excuse for product placement. And I just got tired of the film after I saw 100 Nissan advertising signs, PlayStation, and all the other advertisers.
Did you like Barbie? Talk about product placement. Did you? I mean, and Lego Movie. I mean, what are we talking about here? This is modern cinema.
They were done as satire, and they were done in a clever sort of way. This is a film that is purely promotional vehicle for Nissan and for PlayStation and for other providers. And I just got so tired of this attempt to replicate Formula One racing, the underdog hero, the when something happens, will he recover? All that sort of cliche city, which this film is part of. And I must say, Neil Blomkamp, who is such a good director, I really like District 9. He has obviously sold his soul to the devil to make this Nissan advertising movie.
Please tell us what you really think.
All right. I won't hold back. No, this is a product placement movie which doesn't deserve the 2.25-hour treatment, and I just got tired of it, and I just dismissed it as nothing more than advertising.
Oh, no. Okay, well, we're tired of you now, mate. So let's go on. No, I'm just kidding, Peter. Stay there. Jacqueline, are you into vroom vroom? You used to review cars, didn't you, or something?
Oh, no, that was a very brief. It wasn't anything to do with racing cars or to do with film, Alex. And I just want to say that I think
at your dark distant past.
Yeah, yep. And I think Peter's been sneaking a look at my notes because he said a lot of what I felt about this film, which starts off with it does not need 2.25 hours at all. In fact, that is far too long for this film. And in the end, to me, car racing really is not at all in my area of interest. Although, as you mentioned, Ford versus Ferrari back in 2019, I loved that film. So it was the way it was handled that made this, it didn't give me any pleasure at all. It was full of that testosterone, cliched dialogue, that argy-bargy kind of put-on macho stuff. And even though it might have been based on a true story, it's very hard to keep the level of tension up when you probably know what the ending's going to be, don't you? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a film. And I think that the way they tried to keep that adrenaline going through the film was with the use of hyped up music or hyper music and, the fast footage. Well, actually, the film work I thought was very good. And I also liked what you mentioned, Alex, that layover of the graphics over. I just thought that was visually, kind of broke up this, well, rather boring cars and men's faces kind of setup. Another thing that kept crossing my mind was, this is so out of sync with what we're trying to do for our environment and for the planet to, have these gas guzzling fueled up for the sake of, the danger of it and the thing. I mean, to me, I know this is a personal thing, but does that balance, for entertainment, whether you're seeing it there live or whether you're watching a movie about it?
Well, I mean, okay, I understand the point, and that's laudable. But does that mean that car racing no longer exists, or we're not allowed to talk about it, or
get rid of it? Yep.
Yeah, but
it can go the way of the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get overwhelming. Is at this point, maybe down the track.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying it. That was crossed my mind as I'm seeing these gas guzzlers racing round and round and round, or petrol, whatever, going round and round. I'm just thinking of what it's doing to the environment. And in the end, it's a story based on a true story about people, one in particular. And I just didn't really care about them in the end. The story just didn't really matter to me. And, kind of it's not going to change the world. So I didn't love it at all.
So after the film, I went and had a look up the story, the true story of this, just to find out more about the guy Jan Munro and what happened there. And I was interested to read that the real life Jan Munro, actually did the stunt driving for his character in the film.
There you go. See, and I also looked him up. So I don't.
Well, that was at the end of the film. It showed that. It showed. It actually put that on the screen.
Yeah, but I want to find
memory, and it showed
the story.
It showed the character alongside the real person, and there was a lot of extraordinary similarity. Well, at least one could say they worked hard to get a similarity in the looks department there. It was very good. I like seeing that at the end of films when they sort of match up the real life with the characters.
Yeah. So look, and I looked him up as well, and therefore, so this is really divisive. And Greg will dismiss the other two's opinions as being incorrect. Very simple. When we move on, What is a score out of 10 from you, Greg?
7 out of 10.
I'm giving 7, 7.5, exactly. You're going to fail it, Peter?
Absolutely. Product placement galore. Sick of it. 3 out of 10.
Oh, my golly.
Oh, that's harsh.
That is very, I think this is a dagger to the chest of this movie. Such an illustrious reviewer like your good self. Did you get out of the wrong side of bed this morning or something? Did you, Peter? What's going on here? Hey, get
No,
on.
I'm still in bed.
Yeah, we are. Jackie, you're not going to be that harsh, are you?
No, I'm judging it as a film that will appeal to some
Petrol.
audience and
game.
Yeah, that's right, petrol. Yeah, exactly, and that's not me. But I'm judging it as a fairly well-made film. It had a big budget look and some fancy camera work. The fact that I didn't really enjoy it and it was far too long, I gave it barely a 6, just scraped.
There we go. All right, so we're Gran-turismo. Yes, indeed. You are on J-Air 88 FM, and you're listening to Jackie Hamilton, to Peter Krause, to Greg King, and to me, Alex First.
I might just finally say, Alex, that I wasn't really conscious of the running time of this film either. I quite thought it worked. Didn't worry me.
Yeah, and it didn't worry me either, and I usually do worry about these things. So
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, you boys probably enjoyed seeing the cars going round and round and round and round and round and round.
Well, no, I can't say.
Whereas,
I can't say. Yeah, I'm a real, I some car racing I watch, but I can't say I'm a real aficionado. I think Greg and I agree that the strength of the engineer in this film was very, very strong, and it was his story as well as Jan's story, and I thought that carried it. Simple as that. So, all right. One thing that you should be doing is potentially, if you are interested in supporting us as radio station, 88 FM, why don't you fork out $54 a year? That means that you become a member of the community radio station that we are, and we need your support to continue doing what we're doing. So please, lots of music, lots of entertainment, lots of programming of different sorts that hopefully satisfy various age groups. That is 88 FM J-Air. We are now going to talk about dogs. Now, I should start by saying that my wife has often said to me that there's nobody more important in her life than our dog. And
fair enough.
She said it to me this morning, Jackie, this morning, right? So in other words, so for example, I'll give you a concrete example of this. Yesterday, I went out in my motor car and Nadine rings me and asks me, did I check up on the dog before I left? I said, no, the dog will be fine. The dog's upstairs. Oh, no, well, no, I want you to go back just to double check that the dog hasn't gone out. So I had to drive back home just to make sure that the pooch was okay, because that's the most important thing in our life. You'd do the same thing, wouldn't you?
I think it says more about your wife than it does about your dog.
Oh, no, look, my wife's delightful, and our dog's delightful, and it's all the neighbours know our dog. There's a 3-year-old neighbour of ours, or the child of a neighbour of ours, who calls our dog Fluffball, because it is a very, very hairy animal with that encourages pats from youngsters, and my wife can't actually take the dog for a walk because the dog just stops and is patted all the way. Now, you've got a different sort of dog that gets taken for a walk. At last count, it was 7 times a day, isn't it, Jackie?
Oh, at least, Alex. And thinking about this film that you're going to talk about, I really can't see Chloe in this, or my dog, Bob. I don't think that they would be in this setup, would they?
But hang on. Bob gets grumpy if he's not walked, correct? He gets narky. And the dog's about 70. The dog's about 375 years old, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, roughly. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So there we go. Well, we're talking about this because strays. I'm actually a big advocate for if our dog was picked up from a shelter. I'm not sure about yours, Jackie, but I'm a big rat for that.
Yes, RSPCA.
Yeah, good stuff. I think if you can do that, the last thing that these animals deserve is to be put down through no fault of their own. And if you've got an inclination to have a pet, why don't you start there? Now, Strays is 93 minutes, and it's rated MA. It's rated R in various jurisdictions. Why? Because it's rude, crude, and at times funny. And I reckon it's a bit of a hit and miss proposition. Some of the physical comedy lands, some does not. In between sight gags, I thought there were flat patches, and the transitions between scenes, well, not always seamless. It's almost like situation comedy, then let's have another situation comedy, and let's have a third one. Reggie, voiced by Will Ferrell, is a mutt with a dirtbag of an owner. That dirtbag of an owner is called Doug. It's a role filled by Will Fort. And he treats his dog, a border terrier, very, very poorly indeed. Reggie, though, mistakenly believes that his good-for-nothing, bong-addicted layabout master actually cares for him, when nothing could be further from the truth. And in fact, Doug repeatedly tries to dump Reggie, but no matter how far Doug drives, the dog always manages to find a way back, much to Doug's anger, infuriation. So the only thing for Doug to do is to transport Reggie even further, ultimately 3 hours away. That's where Reggie meets other strays and befriends a fast-talking, foul-mouthed Boston Terrier named Bug, played by the voice of Jamie Foxx. And you know it's Jamie Foxx the moment he opens his mouth. But there you go. The pair starts hanging out together along with Bug's pals. And those pals, Maggie, Isla Fisher, whip-smart Australian Shepherd with the best nose in the business, who's sidelined by her owner's cute new puppy. And there's Hunter, Randall Park, an anxious Great Dane, who failed as a police dog and now works as an emotional support animal for the elderly. And around his head is this plastic cone. I did Google this afterwards. It's known as an Elizabethan collar, which prevents him from scratching. Now, Maggie, this beautiful whip-smart Australian Shepherd, cares for Hunter and Hunter cares for her, but so far neither has acted upon their reciprocal feelings. Truth be told, despite his new friend's strong advice to ditch his owner Doug forever, Reggie still harbours a strong desire to reunite with his low-life owner, and a road trip ensues with plenty of bumps along the way. So, Dan Apero has crafted what I'd call a subversive comedy, which is directed by Josh Greenbaum. I reckon it's got most appeal to young adult, mostly males, right? Young adults, mostly, probably under 40s. And all the dogs talk, even if humans can't actually understand what they're saying. The filmmakers here have totally abandoned the idea of less is more. Copious sexual references, innuendos, exclamations are rooted to this production, pun fully intended. And apart from the frequent use of the F word, there are, pardon the word, dick jokes aplenty, while dog defecation is another mainstay. Undoubtedly the nicest character in the piece is Maggie, and I can tell you something, Isla Fisher's Aussie accent certainly stands out. Jamie Foxx treats us to plenty of jive talking. Will Ferrell paints Reggie as loyal and conflicted. Randall Park exposes Hunter's vulnerabilities. And Josh Gad is a winner, I reckon, in a small role as Gus, this Labrador retriever who narrates his owner's life. Look, Strays, it sets out to shock. And it does achieve that, certainly does. But for all its moments, I wanted and expected more. What I needed to see was a greater bucket of laughs. And I found the film was uneven in its plotting, and that was disappointing. So the idea was sound, the execution only mediocre. What did you think, Peter?
Well, I must say a bucket of something is quite a good way of describing this film. It's I found this an incredibly putrid attempt at scatological humour and of shocking the audience as much as possible. I mean, I think, these talking dog ideas are not bad and could have been crafted into a good satire, into clever writing, into something that could have been quite amusing and clever, especially as a send-up of some of those heartwarming films about dogs. Instead, the filmmakers have decided to grab the audience and throw as much crap at them as possible. And I must say, I was not impressed one iota by this film. I was cringing through most of it, and I was wondering how much further they're going to go with these, as you said, dick jokes and other defecations and other things. In fact, the whole script is a defecation. And look, it's just absolutely awful, it almost made me want to go and see Gran Turismo again. That's how bad this film was.
Oh dear.
Indeed. Okay. So you've got off to a really flying start today. There's going to be 2 failures in your box of tricks. Okay, now, Greg, did you find something a little bit more enjoyable about Strays?
This is quite silly, juvenile and crude, but I rather enjoyed this potty-mouth comedy about dogs behaving badly. There's plenty of gross-out humour here. I thought some of the great visual gags were quite funny as well, and some of the dialogue was actually laugh-out funny. But it does become a bit repetitive, and it is a bit overly long. The simple premise has been packed out with plenty of ribald humour, as the 4 dogs swear a lot. Now, I love good dog animal films as well. This is certainly not a Disney film about dogs on an incredible journey. In fact, it's not a film for kids at all. But I like some of the adventures there, some of the antics they got up to, humping garden gnomes, urinating on each other to call themselves PFS. There's an escape from the dog pound, eating magic mushrooms. I thought some of them were quite amusing. And I liked the vocal cast that's been put together for the film. But Jamie Foxx was clearly the standout as the foul-mouthed bugbear. And Dennis Quaid contributed a brief self-effacing cameo there. So I quite liked this, and I thought Will Forte did a good job of making Doug a very loathsome character. Didn't like him at all, but that was the role he played. And I thought, what's his name, Reggie was quite a cute little dog, as he learned the ways of the street, how to survive on the streets, and the life of living free as a stray. Did you mind it, Alex, at all?
Did you like the ending? Where they? A
lot of people have left the cinema by then, so they wouldn't have seen the ending.
No, did you like the ending?
Yes, I did. I thought it was quite funny, but as I said, a lot of people actually left when the credits were on, and they missed it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I noticed a lot of people actually walked out during the film too.
Yeah. Well, yes. Look, this is going to be. I said it's hit and miss in terms of some of the scripting, etc. I think it's hit and miss in terms of the audience, but there's certainly going to be an audience for it. I don't doubt that at all, because this is, the genre that we're talking about here is a notable, think about anything like Bridesmaids taking a dump in Main Street and things of that nature. But I'm just trying to think, the makers of this or the producers of this were responsible for a couple of other movies of similar ilk, weren't they?
Ted is one of them.
Ted, that was the one I was thinking of, yeah. Ted, which is about this teddy bear, right? And Root.
Yeah, Cocaine
Bear, exactly. Now, okay, so good. 1 yes, 1 no, and I'm kind of in the middle there. Jackie, did you like?
I thought I would. I expected. I was almost not going to go to see this film after having seen the trailer, because I expected to react to it like as Peter has. However, I'm a little bit more towards the way that Greg ended up. Wow. I thought it would be absolutely horrible, but it was everything you said: crude, rude, disgusting, foul. But I also got laughs from it. And I didn't mind the story of it. It's actually, even though it's very wicked, it is actually a buddy road trip of an innocent abroad. And it's also a revenge film, because I think you said he was, little Reggie was very keen to reunite with his owner. He wasn't actually. He was going back. He was talked into going back for this revenge.
No.
At the end.
I disagree. Initially, even though
initially, yes. But then he got talked into going back with this revenge idea in mind that ends up with the resulting climax, shall we say. But I found... and this is why it's episodic, Alex. It's a road trip, and as you're travelling along the road to a destination, you'll meet up with some other characters, such as the police dogs, or an event, or see something such as the mushrooms, and that will cause. That's why it feels like chapters unfolding along the way. I didn't mind that at all, and I found a lot of moments of, quite heartfelt heartfelt moments through the film, although it did get pretty violent. And yes, I certainly wouldn't recommend it to children of any age. And I did feel my IQ drop during the film. That's fine. Especially since I realised I was actually laughing out loud at some of the jokes. So I was a bit embarrassed. I didn't let anyone hear that.
Do you reckon that you had a girlfriend next to you who was really enjoying herself?
That's exactly that's exactly a part of it for me. I took a friend. In fact, the reason I ended up deciding really to go was because I have a friend who does enjoy that kind of humour, and I thought it would cheer her up and be good for her. And you know what? At the end of the film, I said to her, well, what did you think? And I did hear her laugh out loud during the film. And I said at the end, what did you think of that? And she said she judges a film by how she feels herself at the end of the film. So she's not judging production values or how good the acting was or anything like that. And by the way, I thought the voices in Strays was great. But my friend said I judge it by how I feel at the end of the film, and she gave it 10 out of 10. That's a little excessive, but she was feeling good. She had a good night out. So that's lovely too, isn't it?
I mean, if we're judging, it's funny because I used to judge films on by various criteria. One was like clock time, like how many times do I look at my timepiece kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, if you're judging a film on feel, that's certainly a legitimate way of doing so. But I want to start by lowballing this. Peter, what are you going to give this magnificent film, Stray?
The Gran-turismo of dog films. Look, I think Ted. I much preferred Ted. That was I thought that was more interesting and much better written. Anyway, Strays, I give 4 out of 10.
Okay, 4 out of 10. Well, okay, so we'll move up the totem pole. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Greg?
6 out of 10.
And Jackie?
Okay, so Strays, that I've given the alternate title, I've given it an alternate title for the pun, Smut.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah,
Smut.
that'll.
Smut. Okay, sorry, I thought it was hilarious.
There
you go.
Sorry.
That just proves we have a different sense of humour.
It proves his humour's in the eye of the beholder, Jackie, yes. Okay, that's the equivalent of Greg's dad jokes. Yes, go for it.
Yep, that's right. Well, it won't go down as a classic, but I did give Strays almost a 6, but not for children.
What's an almost a 6? Is it 5?
Oh, it's almost a 6. That's what it is.
Is it 5 7/8? Is it or something?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Fantastic. That was Jackie Hamilton's insightful review of Smuts or something, whatever she called it. For everybody else, it's Strays. Now, let's go from the sublime to the ridiculous. No, from the ridiculous to the sublime. Let's go to a movie that is just quite special with regards to a number of elements, but it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's very much an art house film, and it's called Godland. It runs for 2 hours and 13 minutes, and it's rated M. And it's just got mesmerising cinematography, breathtaking vistas. It's quite a dramatic period piece in which man and nature collide. Set in the late 19th century, when Iceland was under Danish rule. An actor called Elliot Crosset Hove plays Lucas. He's a young, ambitious Danish priest charged with travelling to a remote part of Iceland to build a church and to photograph its people. And he's got a superior, played by Waga Sando, who warns him that due to the harsh climate, the church must be built before winter sets in. It's a film about inner and outer conflicts, and soon becomes clear that Lucas has bitten off more than he can chew. To get to where he's heading requires slow progress on horseback across spectacular but dangerous terrain, which is littered with glaciers and rivers. There to guide him is this rugged and hardy older guide called Ragnar, played by Ingvar Eir Sugerson, along with a translator and a small crew. They're carrying cumbersome camera equipment and a heavy cross, and that proves rather challenging. The obstacles, well, they're many, and Lucas's push-on mentality has tragic consequences. He and Ragnar don't see eye to eye. In fact, the clergyman is overwhelmed and he resents the guide. Rescued from death's door, Lucas is taken in by a Danish widower called Carl, played by Jacob Hauberg Lohman. He's taken in by Carl and his 2 daughters. Then I want to talk a little bit about the daughters. Anna, played by Vic Carmen Sonner, and Ida Mecken Hilseder, warm to him. But not so the father, not so Carl. More trials and clashes follow for this young and ambitious Danish priest, Lucas. So while I was watching and admiring this art house picture, I was reminded of a movie I saw many times when I was studying film at uni. And it was it just left such a lasting impression on me. It was Werner Herzog's Aguirre, The Wrath of God. I'm sure, Peter, you've seen that one, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I must have seen it 5 or 6 times in quick succession because we were studying elements of it. Look, that had a really significant and positive influence on me. It's quite a movie. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth catching. Godland also casts quite a large shadow. Work of a filmmaker called Hilnur Palmason. He did A White Day. It's a story about losing one's identity. I'd say arguably religion's on trial here, and it does not fare well. On one level, the harsh terrain sits comfortably alongside the natural beauty that's inherent within it. But on another, tolerance, understanding, and respect are sorely tested. Elliot Crossett Hove plays the role of Lucas as humorless and overwrought. He makes the man of the cloth unlikable, which again, that's quite something. In a contrasting role, though, Ingvar E. Sigurdsson is about brawn. He's an outdoorsman who's in tune with nature and all of what nature throws up. And it's difficult to understand what Anna sees in the clergyman Lucas, other than a way out of a routine and colourless life. She was born in Denmark, and she longs to go back there. She's the older daughter of Carl, who invites Lucas to basically saves him. Vic Carmen Sonner brings a measure of duty and warmth to her characterisation, and there's a youthful exuberance about Ida Mecken Hilsted as her younger sister. Jacob Hauberg Lohman, rather principled, not to be crossed as the father. And Maria von Auswald's cinematography, I thought that was luminous. It was shot on 35mm film, and the film itself is square with rounded corners, and it's got quite an arresting score as well. Thought the music was really important in this. Inspired, by the way, the film Godland by 7 photographs that were actually taken by a Danish priest, which were thought to be the first visual images of Iceland's southeastern coast. It's quite beautiful, Godland, but it's also quite brutal. So that contrast is there. Emotionally fraught, to his credit, I mean, that's the movie. I just thought that the filmmaker makes us think and feel, and that's what Godland was all about for me. I thought it was a very strong film, but it's going to be of limited appeal. Jackie, have you seen it or not?
Alex, it's a very, very long film, and I couldn't commit to that time. But I wondered if it reminded you at all of Silence, the Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield film, at least in the storyline.
Yeah, there was that. This is less mainstream, but yes, it does have.
What, you thought Silence was mainstream?
No, but this is really esoteric. This one, more so, right? But it's certainly it's a good parallel that you draw. Peter, Godland.
Yes, this has already entered on my list of one of the best films of the year. I was so impressed by this film, which really investigates the notion of colonial invasion and of religious invasion of another country, even though Denmark was sort of looking after Iceland at the time. I think the way the film is shot is superb. It's shot in Academy ratio for a reason, and that's because of the photos that the priest takes, and it sort of mimics the idea of how this country, the priesthood, the religious organization is so keen to invade, if you like to put it that way, that area of Iceland, and to imbue the Icelandic people with the culture that they are meant to have. Obviously, no good can come of this, and that's what happened as the film developed. beautifully shot, really well acted, and it just drew me in so much in terms of the storyline, in terms of the issues that the film delves into without being too obvious and explicit, and of the harsh environment. And it is so well shot. The two daughters I found very interesting because they represent two different aspects of the way Icelandic people responded to Denmark and how it was treating people, and how religion was so important to people at the time, and yet was also divisive and to some extent quite ruinous for some people. Very, very impressive film. I highly recommend it. I urge people to go and see Godland. And what I loved in particular is that the film has two titles, both called Godland, one in Danish, one in Icelandic, to give you the idea that here are two countries trying to get together, not in a very effective sort of way.
Would you agree, though, this is going to be a small audience film? Just be aware it's not going to suit everybody's taste, as I've said a few times.
Yes, but again, I always argue, so what? I mean, every film is not going to appeal to everyone.
No, but what I'm saying, it is slow moving, and ultimately that there are going to be people who say, no, look, it just doesn't suit my style. And I think it's important that we don't just say it's a great movie and everybody's going to love it, and then people go along under a misnomer. That's the reason I mention it. Isn't that important?
Well, to some extent, yes, you've got to keep audience in mind, but you also have to be true to yourself in terms of the way you review a film. And I have very distinct parameters in terms of the way I view films, in terms of writing and so on. And if people don't want to go and see the film based on my review, that's perfectly fine. Or if they do, everyone always has to make up their own mind.
Yeah, understand. What about you, Greg? What did you think of Godland?
Well, Jackie mentioned those couple of films there. I also thought a little bit of Roland Joffe's The Mission with Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons as these two priests in the, I think it was South American wilderness somewhere as well. It evoked memories of that to me, but I thought this was a deliberately slow and leisurely film there, and it won't be suited to everybody's taste there. In fact, I like the first the first part of it more so when the priest is tracking through this harsh wilderness, which was beautifully shot there, I thought, by Maria von Halswolf there. The second half of the film themes of colonialism and religion, which Peter referred to, left me a little bit cold, the second half of the film, especially as the priest undergoes a crisis of religious faith and everything. But yeah, I thought at 143 minutes, the pace does drag a little bit, but it is beautifully shot. It's got some striking imagery, and it looks beautiful there. But yeah, I just sort of found halfway through the film, I just wondered where it's heading, when is it going to end?
Oh, okay. Well, so let's start with you then. What score are you going to give Godland, which runs for 2 hours and 13 minutes and is rated M?
Look, I eventually ended up giving it 6 because it was beautifully shot and very cinematic. But yeah, it is a bit of a slog.
Okay, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. And I dare say that, Peter, you're going to be the high ball here.
Definitely. It's interesting, Greg, you mentioned The Mission, because The Mission was very commercialized and used music elaborately to highlight emotion, whereas this film, Godland, doesn't use much music at all. It's more about what you experience and visualize and so on. Anyway, I loved Godland, 9 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. Now, we've got limited time left, but I wanted to talk about a couple of plays that I've seen if I get the opportunity. So let me at least start with one that I saw. And it's interesting because it's a first-time collaboration between Tuija Suter and Bella Moretto. And unfortunately, you won't get the opportunity to see this, but I want you to remember those names because I dare say they're going to be making some good theatrical productions in the future. This ran for, I think, 4 days or so at the MC showroom in Paran. And it's called Powder Room. Tuija Suter, Tuia, and Bella Moretto. And the girls are out for a night on the tiles at a club. But not all's going according to plan. In fact, there's no shortage of sad and mad faces amidst the snorting and vomiting in the ladies' toilets where the action takes place.
It's like dogs.
Very much so, yes. Exactly. There's 4 filthy cubicles, right? And they're full. Tiff, played by Amelia Nemeth, is inconsolable after she caught out her long-term boyfriend Josh, played by Zefran Yardwa, getting it on with another woman. And a hilarious scene early on sums up the former's precarious state. Zan, played by Luce Witherspoon, is gay. She's got the hots for a confident lady who doesn't know she exists. Jamie, Amelia Dunn, has her head in a bowl and in between chucks calls out Tiff to grow a pair, so to speak. Scarlett, as Kenworthy, is ropeable that her best friend appears to have stood her up when they were going to do lines together. Wearing Sonny's Piper, Desi Boyle, enters the fray late in the piece with 3 golden tips, starting with the perfect environment to pee. Now, without angling for it, she finds herself drawn into Scarlett's self-centered world. Powder Room actually takes place over just a single night as friendships are forged and broken and homespun wisdom is imparted. It's the work of the writers and directors Tui Suter and Bella Moretto, marking their first collaborative theatrical production. Comedic drama, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's provocative. Personas are really well crafted. The actors, individually and collectively, are forever putting their best foot forward to generate laughs. And perhaps it's their youth here, but many of the characters actually don't seem to have the tools to handle their respective circumstances. Arguably, those that grow the most during the course of proceedings are Tiff and Zan, and I really appreciated Amelia Nemeth's realisation of the former. Actually, all the performers, though, have their moments. Colourful, graffiti-strewn washroom is a triumphant setting. You enter the theatre and you think, wow, and that doesn't often happen like this, but it does with this particular production of Powder Room. It was most appropriate to the narrative arc. Madison Stevens, Ash Donovan, Adam Smith are the ones responsible. So Walk on the Wild Side, it's a bit of a hoot. It's been well composed and executed, should hold particular appeal to younger millennials and older members of Generation Z or Z. 55 minutes. It was playing at the MC showroom, finished yesterday. But I really, I was impressed by the endeavours of Tui Suter and Bella Moretto. So, I mean, I like it when I'm seeing something that, I haven't seen before, or some newbies come onto the scene. And it was a really interesting, it was quite a full audience. I saw it on Friday night, and that really aided the cause because there was a lot of laughter in the room and so on. And unlike Strays, there weren't flat patches, which I appreciated. I thought it was sustained throughout. And the running time was good too, under an hour. You get in, you get out, and you're feeling in a good mood afterwards, which is, Jackie, exactly what you were saying about your girlfriend having seen Strays. And that can elevate your... do you think your review of Strays was positively influenced by your girlfriend?
Yes.
I think... I just don't know that it couldn't be, because inevitably you're talking about it, and it's, even if you thought, oh, well, ho-hum, well, maybe I'll elevate it at least a little bit. It's kind of like...
A little bit, Alex, but I did genuinely laugh out loud at some of the humour. And cringe at some, and gasp at other parts.
But that's the nature. But that's the nature of these sorts of movies, isn't it? Stray sets out to provide.
It wasn't breaking new ground, and it won't be a classic. Put it like that.
It won't be a classic. No. By the way, you say to me during the week, Barbie's still going strong, and so many. What is it? Seated arrangements at cinemas. There's still lots of screenings, etc. Correct?
I was having a chat yesterday. I saw 2 films at Lido.
Yep, go for
Lido
it.
Cinemas in Hawthorne, and I was having a chat to an usher afterwards who said it's still packing them out.
Really? Isn't that great?
I think they have about 8 sessions a day still.
Fantastic. All right, folks, good to have you with us. Jackie Hamilton, thank you. Peter Krause, a pleasure. Gregory King, and yours truly. Catch you next week on First on Film and Entertainment.